Obviously, cybersecurity is a hot market to be in right now. We have a lot of young folks on here that are part of the teams and into all these gaming and fun activities. So what I thought I'd do is first, I'll let each of you introduce yourselves. Then maybe we'll just get into some questions, some question and answers, and kind of banter amongst us as to some advice that we have for the group, some of what you're seeing, and then we can end it with just a closing statement in and around everything that's happening around cybersecurity. So with that, I'll start with my top right here, Gina.
Yes. Hello, everybody. Hope everybody has a wonderful holiday weekend. Really happy to be here today. My name is Gina Yacone. I am the advisory or regional CISO of the Mountain State regions for a technology company called Trace3. So thanks for having me.
Thanks, Gina. Adam?
Hello, yes. Also happy to be here. My name is Adam Kaplan. I'm the Chief Information Security Officer for Hogan Lovells, which is a large global law firm. People don't really know the names of any law firms, but we're one of them, and we're also just made up of two names. So thank you for having me here.
Thank you, Adam. Tomas?
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. I'm Tomas Maldonado. I'm the CISO for the NFL, the National Football League.
That's awesome. All right, so quite a diverse panel here that we have. So it's going to be awesome to get their insights from each of them. And with that, Gina, why don't I just start with you? So some of the things that I've seen that are important in growing a cybersecurity career, even whether you're new to it, or even honestly, if you're like 10, 20, 30 years into it, is having a mentor and continue to build and work networks amongst your peers and others. What advice or what there, what do you recommend for the audience here in and around mentorship and networking?
What a great question. I think my career would not be where it is without having a great network of people, having that strong kind of connection and ties to the cybersecurity community. So I actually just moved to Denver, Colorado from Raleigh, North Carolina. And in Raleigh, North Carolina, I made sure that I was involved with all of the local cybersecurity chapters, such as ISSA, ISC Squared, Cloud Security Alliance, as well as the Women in Cyber, DEF CON, B-Sides RDU, things like that. And, now that I've moved, I have to start that network again, but it's still kind of that framework where I'm going to go to different events. I'm trying to do calls for papers at these different conferences. I'm trying to make connections because you really don't know who you're around, who might be your next boss, and who's going to help you through. So really being able to go to these different kind of networking events and or conferences and asking people, questions. You don't need to know. You can ask dumb questions. You can ask thoughtful questions, whatever questions you should be asking because you're helping yourself grow and making different connections. So thank you.
Great answer, Jeanette. Adam, anything, what recommendations from you?
I echo virtually everything Gina said. I mean, going out and getting involved in the community, it's so useful. When you're starting to look for jobs or people, that other companies saying, hey, does anyone know anyone who has this skill? Does anyone know anyone that does X or Y? And so you're always relying on those connections. I know, and I certainly had this, especially early on in my career, being social is never exactly my strongest skill set. And so going out and going to these types of groups was always a bit of a challenge, but it really pays off. These are people who are of like minds in a lot of topic areas. So you really get a lot there, and building those connections is just invaluable as you try to get your name in the field as well as helping you find that next role.
Exactly. And Tomas, anything you would add to that?
Yeah, what I would say is, there's mentors all around us, and whether you call them mentors or not, I usually call them people that are advisors or sort of board of directors, if you will, in your mind of you and your career, and try to find those individuals, as Adam mentioned, like-minded individuals that can help you continue to grow, right? You want to ensure that you're being a continuous sort of learner, and associating yourself and immersing yourself, which is what I think Gina was mentioning as well, immersing yourself in the community that you believe to be a good community for you, right? Cybersecurity community is the one that I'm talking about in case it's not clear. Immerse yourself within the community and become an advocate for not only yourself, but for others, and find those individuals that have a thought process that's very similar to yours and ones that are different than yours, so that you can get different perspectives, and then try to identify those key individuals at different areas in their career and in their journey that align to where you might want to aspire to be in the next few years, and just have a conversation. Right? You can approach them as a regular human being. You don't have to say, hey, I'm such and such. Can you be my mentor? But it's like, hey, I really heard what you said on this podcast, or I read what you wrote in this article, or, I have an affinity or an interest in a certain area that you're working on. Can you share some more information on that and build that relationship? And from that relationship, you never know what could occur or what could transpire after you built that successful relationship for you and your career. So that would be my quick tips for you, Chris.
Yeah, Tomas, and everyone, those are great pieces of advice and insights. One thing I would add to it is some of you may have already, but if you can, even if your company won't pay for it, maybe invest in yourself and get to a Black Hat, an RSA, one of the larger conferences. It's going to fast track your ability to meet new people. But if that is an issue where you can't get to those conferences yet, just as Gina said, there are a ton of local conferences that don't cost anything, where you can go meet folks, network, get to know them from the beginning. And as you build your network, you'll see that you'll be invited to smaller, more intimate sessions that involve maybe some CISOs or some security engineering folks, right? Folks that probably meet on a regular basis. And as you build your networks, you'll see that you'll be involved in some of these groups and can build and expand your network from there. All right, with that, what are each of you guys seeing in the job market? It's a crazy job market with remote work, hybrid work, coming into the office. What are you guys seeing in the job market these days? Gina?
Yeah, so it's kind of an exciting time, right? So I would say there's a big focus, of course, in cloud. I think we're seeing a lot of cybersecurity professionals kind of come up on their resume with some type of either Azure, AWS, or GCP, type of certification. So not just looking at having a broad kind of cybersecurity cloud knowledge, but also kind of specializing and kind of looking at that to become that like subject matter expert in that certain area. So I see cloud being really hot, as well as application security. So thinking about the secure SDLC process. So thinking about code, making sure that that code is secured before it goes to the market. So really kind of looking at how that process is. Having more technical testing, a part of that. I know that there's a lot of people on the call today that's working on different capture the flags. And, one of them is in application security. I think that's very, very hot in terms of the amount of, or the more integration that companies put into technical testing from an application standpoint is great. Now, of course, cybersecurity, we have so many different domains. And really, as long as you find a passion, you usually can find some type of area to kind of hang your hat in. So I would say continue to be curious and look for, names. Like a lot of times you'll see security analyst, and that can mean a lot of different things. So I'm seeing sometimes broader terms used for job descriptions, where security analyst could be a SOC analyst. It could be a GRC analyst. It could be, something in a different area, identity and access management. And that kind of blanket term is out there. So make sure you read the job description.
Great advice. Adam?
Yeah, I would say, very similar, Gina. I mean, a lot of focus on cloud, of course. Law firms have been a bit slower in adopting cloud. So that transition to cloud and getting the right skill set of people that really understand the main cloud players is a real vital importance. Application security is another big one. And then identity is the third one that we're really focusing on. real investment, because the identity is sort of being targeted lately as sort of the core piece of cybersecurity is the identity and managing the identity, securing the identity. So we're really focusing on that. And I think when we look at the hot skills, I think there are sort of two pieces to it. It's sort of the barbell problem that we've often had in cybersecurity, right? People are either very good at the technical, they're very good at the communications, but there's just that huge gap in between. So whenever we interview people for roles like that, when we look for certain skills, we have some people that will interview to look for those really technical skills and make sure that they have everything that they need. And then there's that other set to make sure that they are able to communicate those to a less technical audience. So, checking both of those boxes has always been key. And I think that's always been a big struggle that we have when we go through the recruiting process.
Thank you. And Tomas, anything you would add?
Look, I see a lot of opportunity. I mean, very, very simply put, there's a lot of opportunity for very technical skill sets, such as the folks sort of participating in the exercises today. And, there's a lot of runway for where you want to take your career. Think about it from both the private sector, the public sector. Think about it from both working as on the sales side and on the receiving end of sales, if you will, right? So being able to working on the product side, and then on the within a corporation, within the public or private area, on the receiving end of implementing those solutions, right? There's tons of opportunities if you really start to see where we're headed. There was a lot of mention of cloud and application security, which I completely agree with. But then there's other aspects around when we think about Web3, or what's been termed as Web3, right? So around the corner, think about those new areas that we're going to have to develop skill sets in. Right, digital asset security, being able to assess those digital assets and components that make up those digital assets, whether it's a wallet, whether it's blockchain, whether supply chain, what have you, right? So there's tons and tons of opportunities. It really comes down to where you find a passion in. And if you can find your passion in an area and gravitate towards that area, you can sort of grow and stay laterally, and grow technically and stay laterally, or grow more management level and move upwards. But there's tons of opportunities. There's tons of opportunities for people that want to better the community and better the nation and better the overall mission of what you might have, or what a company that you might work for might have in terms of growing a business.
Thank you, Tomas. I'm with you guys there. There is a lot of opportunity in cybersecurity. Some of the disciplines, cloud, application security, identity access management, are obviously some of them. There are many more to cybersecurity. So as you're looking, as the folks on here are looking to get started in cyber, check out all the disciplines. You may want to go the deep technical route. You may want to go governance and compliance. You may want the physical security route that's starting to converge, or even fraud with cybersecurity. The cool thing is, once you get started, you can, as was always said here as well, always be learning, right? Learn other disciplines so you're not just stuck knowing one key thing. See how much you can learn within cyber, and take advantage of all these different disciplines and areas of cybersecurity that you can participate. As you grow in your career, you'll learn that the people that get to these CISO roles, like these folks, are folks that have multi-discipline. They're able to speak to, they're able to manage budgets, teams that are able to serve the enterprises in these multi-discipline strategies. So thank you for that. What skill sets now would you guys be looking for, or what skill sets should the folks on here be working on as they progress or even start their journey in cybersecurity careers? I'll go back to you again, Gina.
Yeah. So I think, so one thing, you don't need to have everything that's on the job description, right? I can train, technical, I can train on a discipline. You can get some on the job training, so having a good foundational knowledge, but you don't have to hit all of the check marks. I know that it's something that I always thought that I needed to kind of make sure that I was fully, fully formed for that position. And maybe I didn't apply for many positions because I didn't hit all of the check marks. Realize that, people, if you're seeing me, I want to see your energy. I want to see your soft skills, how you write and how you communicate and how you talk with others. All that other stuff we can train, so getting, you guys are doing, the cyber games. So you guys are learning kind of on the job right now, some of these technical skills that will be transferable. So be able to say what you're doing in these games and being able to speak at a team level, so like a user level, to maybe a referee, being able to speak up to somebody, explain your methodology on how things have happened, to then be able to kind of present it to a board and be able to start learning some of those skills that I feel like in the Zoom age we're starting to lose because we're not really like meeting in person and we're always kind of behind a screen. But make sure that you're maintaining kind of that understanding and that foundational communication skills. From a technical perspective, always be learning, always be curious. But I think energy and curiosity kind of gets you far with an HR, manager and with a hiring manager. And then when you get in front of a panel. So some of the other things, somebody may be more technical than you. Yes. There's definitely more people that are technical than me, but maybe I can communicate differently. And maybe that's a value add that the team doesn't have. So think about that team dynamic and know that you're part of a team, that it's not just you, we have, cybersecurity, we need everybody. It's just not I. So those are some things that I would say from the soft skill side.
Yep. Thank you, Gina, for that. Adam?
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, typically, there's obviously depending on the role, right? So there's a baseline of a technical knowledge that we would look for, but then once that's there, it's really just around excitement, interest, being able to come in and sort of add value to the team, right? So when we bring in someone, we say, all right, they have good baseline and they're really excited, they're really energetic. We really feel they will really energize the team and get folks excited, right? So whenever you bring in someone new, there is that thing that they bring to it. They just sort of, they have the opportunity to just get the whole team excited around this new person who's coming in with a lot of fire. So we're really looking for that. And yeah, I mean, emphasizing the work you're doing at events like this, that shows a commitment. That shows that, hey, this isn't just a job for me. This is something that I'm really passionate about. I spend free time doing this, continuing to learn, going, and we talked about going to events, doing things like this. It all sort of just speaks to your commitment to the craft and doing better, and doesn't necessarily mean it's the technical side of it. Could be the writing side, could be presentation. Those are all things that we look for, that sort of just, again, just to show that, hey, this person really will add value. They'll be really passionate. They will learn. I think that's always a big thing of, they don't know it, but after talking to them, I know they will learn this. And they will learn it, and they will aggressively learn it, and they'll get good at it. And that's something that we often look for when we're trying to find top talent.
Thank you, Adam. Great answer. Tomas?
Yeah, not to be too repetitive for what my colleagues just said, but I just want to emphasize a few key points. One that Gina made, which is, you might look at a job description and you might say, wow, I don't hit every single item on that job description, and you might discount yourself. Just know that when hiring managers put out job descriptions, most of it, there's a recipe to that. There's a certain component of it that is, we're looking for those core sets of skills. And then there's other components of that job description that really make up, nice to haves, if you will. If we find this person, this is the unicorn that we want. But even then, we might not actually hire that unicorn. And you might be saying, well, why, Tomas? Well, because if we hired somebody that met every single item on that job description, then after they started working, after maybe, 3 months, 4 months, they might be bored. And now how are we going to keep that person to continue to grow in their career, right? Usually when job descriptions are written, they're written to capture a good amount of information for what's necessary for you to do the job. And then there's other items in there that are really runway items, things that you'll continue to grow and learn in. So that way you can stay motivated in the role for more than 6 months, if you will, right? Because the changing landscape of security, since security changes so frequently, keeping that attention and keeping that pace with what's happening is very important. So it's, strongly recommend that as you look through those job descriptions, obviously, if you don't meet not one of the items, don't just say, hey, I'm going to go for this very senior role. Really try to work at it, but don't discount yourself if you don't meet every single item on there. So I think that Gina mentioned that earlier, and I wanted to emphasize that because I think that's an important point, because we tend to sort of discount ourselves. And then the other things that I'll say is, you want to be able to bring things that not only you, but that you can add, your sort of flavor, if you will, to the table, right? What do you bring personality wise? What do you bring with work ethic, with grit, with, different things, different qualities about you and your sort of diversity, right? There's a very good reason why there's an emphasis on hiring diverse talent. It's not because we're trying to fill different boxes with different shades of people or color or genders. It's because we want that diversity of thought. So you need to bring that personality, that person that you are to the table, to the interview, overlay that with all of the skills that you've learned throughout your career, whether it's in learning in academia or learning just personal on the side, just because you like testing, systems at home, and then overlay that with the passion that you'll have to do the job, right? So Adam mentioned that, that excitement to the role. No one wants to hire somebody that's going to be sitting across the table from them and be very boring, if you will. And I'm not saying come in and be a comedian, but I'm saying make sure that what you're doing, you have some level of passion and attachment to, because you'll be much more fulfilled when you do the role, and all the skills and everything else you'll have. And Gina touched on the other piece that I wanted to highlight, which is chances are we are looking for the intangibles, and we can teach you all of the other areas, wherever it is that you're going to work in, all of the other areas around security and cyber, depending upon what the technical skill set is. You need to bring the willingness to learn and that sort of being that self-starter to the table.
Actually, let me continue with you, because that kind of dovetails into how is culture on a high-performing team. Yeah, I think a lot of what you just said is in and around the culture that a individual would bring to your current team, right? I take it that's super important to you.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is, right? Culture and cultural differences, I think, enrich a team's perspective, and it definitely enriches a company, specifically if you're working globally or even nationally, right? Like think about what we do. We play globally as well, but I've worked at international companies, and being able to have different cultural perspectives to bring to the forefront at the table as you're dealing with initiatives, whether it be very specific cybersecurity problems and challenges, or trying to launch a new business idea and leveraging security to enable the business to be successful in that and taking risks there. Those cultural differences play into the success or failure of that organization, of that initiative. So it's very, very important that we take the opportunity to listen to everybody's ideas, to listen to everyone's perspectives, and then try to come together as a team and be respectful as we're working through that. Because, if we wanted to hire very like-minded people, we'd probably be marching in one direction. That direction could be very, very wrong. So you want to try to have that diversity to bring those different perspectives to the table.
Thank you. Totally agree. Gina, anything you would add on the culture?
Yeah, I actually, I'm going to take culture in a different perspective, and I'm going to actually take it in is that the next generation of cybersecurity professionals and the ones that we have the boots on the ground right now, we're really changing cybersecurity culture right now. So a lot of organizations, it's been retroactive. It's kind of an aftersight. Oh, a breach. Now you're starting to see cybersecurity ingrained into the culture of a company. So they're putting, their vision statements or their filing statements, they're putting like cybersecurity as part of that. So we're kind of in that kind of change from like a cultural standpoint from an organization. But doing that is because we are able to have a diversity of thought and thinking about things differently and being able to actively cheerlead that change in cybersecurity. So we don't need to be the no department anymore, right? We need to be the department that kind of works with all different types of users.
Thanks, Gina. And Adam, I would imagine that at a law firm, culture could be very significant, right? I'm sure you have lawyers very traditional and proper in the way and then some cybersecurity comes in around here and tells them, no, you can't do that. So culture has a big part in your team.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a challenge. Speaking specifically about a law firm, and this is the case in a lot of companies where you have a certain set of very challenging users that are used to doing things a certain way, are not used to being told they can't do things a certain way. And you need to accommodate for that as best you can. You really appreciate, and you see this a lot of times with certain people in the profession that are very much you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this, these things are bad. And the obviously culture plays a role with it, but it happens in every organization that you do have to make allowances. You do have to figure out how to best deploy security while enabling the business to do the job it needs to do in the way it needs to do it. The business is able to make accommodations in some ways, but ultimately it still needs to do its job. And anything that you make it harder to do costs money to make those changes. And you have to take consideration that you're potentially costing them for money because you're making them do it X way versus Y way. And something like a law firm, when you bill in 6-minute increments, it's all very material. So yeah, it's definitely a challenge. And then when you go back to the culture side, and when you go back to the security team, you really want to make sure that team is stacked with a good mix of people. You have the people that are more the insistent that this is the right way to do it. It must be this way. You have the people that are more the willing to flex a bit. And then, through the collaboration, you get to an answer that I think it's fair to say no one is particularly happy with, which tends to be the right answer, because everyone sort of gets something they want and understands that there is some element of risk. So it's definitely a challenge, but I think in every organization you have that. There's just sort of different levels of tolerance that you have to fight through.
Yep, thank you for that. And here's my own story here. So I used to run a very large team, a threat management team at Bank of America. When I inherited that team, it was very technical in nature and just on stopping and reducing all malware and indicators and threats, which is going to be part of the mission. But what they never understood, at least up until I kind of guided them and coached them, mentored them, is what it does on a day-to-day basis, right? They provide loans and consumer banking and ATMs and all the stuff that it traditionally does. And everything they were doing, although it was important, they never understood how they were supporting and helping the business. And Adam, as you said, until you understand the core business, right, whether it's a law firm, a bank, an NFL, a sports, whatever, that's really important to folks on this Zoom to understand. That's going to make you a better person, right? The goal is to combat and do cybersecurity, but really understand the purpose. Like, why are you doing it for this enterprise, right? What are you protecting? Is it the athletes? Is it the states? Is it the law firm? Is it the lawyers, etc.? So that's very important to me when I'm talking to folks that understand not just technical aspects, but also the business. What we're hiring for, understanding the business, competitive market, etc. So it's something to remember. And probably because of time, I'll ask one more question here. And it's in and around the skills shortage. What advice do you have for the folks on this call, especially as they're coming off of this challenge here for getting into the job market with the skill shortage that we have, and what should they bring to increase their skills? Gina?
Yeah. So one thing I think cybersecurity professionals in our industry right now, we're just not doing a great job of allowing for internships and entry level. It's kind of, I feel like right now it's either you're experienced or your entry, right? So there seems to be few people kind of in the middle. And so that does create a lot of frustration. So I kind of want to everybody out there, I know that the hiring process sucks. I know it is potentially hard and daunting to get that first cybersecurity job, or maybe, your second, but once you get in, hopefully you will find your tribe network and kind of get out there. I think it is really important to always be skilling up, always be learning. I'm actually taking a certification, right now. So, it's one of those things where I need to be, where is cybersecurity going in 5 years? Am I going to be at that level, right? And so I have to scale up. So everybody kind of has to scale up, right? So I think it's really important to continue to do things like these cyber games, other capture the flag games, but also realize that, yes, you can make a future in doing, penetration testing and application security and all those types of things, but realize that there's other things out there. This might be a fun hobby, but maybe it's not a fun job. Or maybe you're not going to make as much money as you think you will, right? So think about, ways that you love security and be able to, utilize that. I also think you should collaborate with, people like me, as well as other cybersecurity professionals. Do a joint talk, view from the CISO, view from the student, right? Do a talk, at a local conference and kind of build that kind of confidence for your resume and for other things. But right now, I think what's really important is what you're doing in all these capture the flag games, be able to translate to all different kind of communication styles. So written, verbal, interpretive dance, those types of things.
Thank you, Gina. Adam?
Yeah, I would agree with a lot of that. I mean, ultimately, when dealing with skill short, I mean, the work, the things that you're doing here, things you're learning here, when you start applying for jobs, as was mentioned before, it doesn't need to be a great match. The experience you have on things like this translates to a ton of different jobs that are out there. And it's really just about telling that story and being able to tell it in a way that, people will listen, like, you know what, this person clearly gets it. There's someone that we can bring on board and we could use. So it's just continuing to be hungry, continuing to do events like this, continuing to find sort of the next thing that not just what you think the industry cares about next, but that you also care about and can be excited about. Because if you're like, all right, I guess this is the next thing, so I'll just learn it. But if it doesn't excite you, then it's just not going to stick. So it's really, what do I want to learn next and why? And then, look for jobs that hit that in some way. They aren't going to necessarily be right in the bullseye, but have some connection to it where you feel like you're going to be able to use some of those skills, and then you can move that on to the next opportunity there, And then obviously, as you go through the process, no one likes to failed interviews, but that is how you learn how to get better at interviews, unfortunately. So really, as you go through them, did you not get picked at all? Did you get picked, but you didn't get past the first round, which, be sort of critical as you think through the process to understand, or if you can ask HR, hey, did they give any feedback of things? So that way, if I'm really insecure about my technical, but actually it turns out that the reason why I'm getting passed on is because of the way I'm speaking, the way I'm explaining, and that's great. Then I know that that's actually where I should spend my time. So to the extent you're able to get some feedback, and I understand that's hard sometimes, but when you reach out to an HR person, they generally don't care. You can ask them. It's not such a bad thing to try to get that input in order to know where to improve going forward.
Yep, that's great, Adam. Thank you so much, Tomas.
I think the other thing that we can do to reduce that sort of skills shortage, if you will, as security leaders, it's working with, so security is everybody's job. It's not just my job or my team's job. So it's working within the organization to help educate other individuals, right, and help bring them up to I'll call it a baseline or fundamental level or fundamental understanding around security, the same way they know how to secure their house when they leave their house every day, or secure their car when they park it in the parking lot, or their purse or their wallet, right? So there's some basic fundamental things that everybody should know. And I think, as security leaders, we can do a much better job at working within the construct of our organization and then expanding that out to our networks and our networks within the academia world, if you will, right? But then other folks, even sort of more, every sort of component within that journey, whether you're more senior, more junior, or anywhere in between, it's really reaching back, right? Reaching back to that person, to that other individual that's trying to be you. Everyone that is at a certain level has somebody looking up to them, and it's your responsibility to sort of pull that person up and then have that person pull the other person up below them. But the thought process there is that you're providing value along the lines of what's really important for companies so you're bridging the gap between where you work at and where you came from, and helping that other individual develop those skills in those certain areas. So there's no, we mentioned earlier how there's tons of sort of opportunities in different areas of security, both on the sales, both on the practitioner, both on company side. It really, really look at that and think about that. You like teachers that work in education, we need training and awareness around how to educate people on cybersecurity, right? So if you have an education background, you could be a cybersecurity educator, right? If you have a journalism background, communications background, you could work on incident response and handle communications for incident response, right? So there's tons of tangible skills that could apply and could be leveraged within security, and it's our job to connect the dots with those prospective candidates, but it's also those, you all who are doing sort of hands-on practitioner work, be able to connect the dots with other individuals that are trying to make it to where you are today, and then continue to build from there. So I know we're short of time, so I'll shut up and pass it back to you, Chris.
Thank you guys for all that. So I know that many on here for the cyber game of high performance teams probably dedicated a good chunk of your time in order to this team and travel with the teams. That's awesome. That's amazing. That effort that you're putting into this, again, we're all telling you, as you put that same effort, similar efforts into getting into cybersecurity, it will pay off in the long run. And the skills that you're learning now are going to be very fundamental to your success in the future. So thank you for that. With that, we probably have like 30 seconds each for closing statements, if you'd like. Gina, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I just, quickly, congratulations on all your successes and your future successes. Go team. I'll leave it with that.
Perfect. Adam?
Yeah. Also, so I don't have an intensely technical background, so I think the things that you guys are doing are just amazing. And keep it up, and really appreciate you guys as the sort of the future leaders in the industry.
Awesome. Thank you, Tomas.
Yep. Congratulations on where you've gotten to so far. Keep growing, keep learning. You definitely have to be a continuous learner. Try to find education or get education as cheaply as you can. There's tons of it now. There wasn't many of it back when I was first starting out. So there's tons of opportunities for you to listen to smart people share their thoughts and give you some free wisdom. So good luck to you, and kudos in your career.
Yes, I echo all the same statements. Good luck to you guys. Thanks for having us as part of your event. I'm sure you can figure out how to find us on LinkedIn if you do want to reach out, but we appreciate your time in listening to our presentation. And good luck, right? Good luck with the challenge, and good luck in the rest of your careers. Like the folks here said, I'm sure we will run into you sooner or later in cybersecurity.
Round of applause. Eric, Gina, Adam, Tomas, thank you so much. I do understand that you guys have a very busy and hectic schedule, so you guys taking out the time for this, coming out here, blessing us with your knowledge. This panel is absolutely elite. So again, thank you all so much. And Eric, thank you again for hosting that as well.